Hello, everyone. We're your hosts, Beth
And Bridget Corns.
and welcome to Click Moments in Passionate Pursuits, The Unfolding, where intuitively guided conversations are followed with feral faith, enthusiasm, and joy, bringing new insights, inspiration, and perspectives along the way. And today, I think you're going to find this a fun topic because fun is in the topic. So today we're going to talk about the positive benefits of adding more humor, laughter, and play into your life. And so this is a topic that's come up because one of the things that both of us have talked to different people about is there's a time and a season for dealing with the things that have happened to us and for building resiliency in a way that actually kind of clears out the clutter of the past. But there's also a way in the present that is very powerful and compelling that we can enjoy and have fun bringing very similar aspects. And the beauty of that approach is that the more it happens, the more it happens. And so we're going to talk about that today and why that is, and encourage all of you to look for opportunities to bring more goodness into your life.
Yeah, so this topic was born out of a personal experience that I had. I've gone through a couple seasons in my life where I was in really rough spots. And one of them, which I know we've talked about before in this podcast, was when I was in the hospital dealing with what I was told was heart failure. And so when I was in that space and when I was given that diagnosis that I ended up choosing not to receive, the first place that my mind went for me was, other than this sense of peace and this understanding that I was choosing not to receive that diagnosis. The next thing that happened was I fell into this space of looking at it from a humorous perspective. And I tend to do this, I find, when I'm faced with really, really difficult circumstances, is I will look for something or see something that I guess the average person wouldn't see in that scenario. And for me, that's humor. So the joke that I made when I was told this was I was like, well, gosh, I mean, it's a really good thing that I just got life insurance because everything's going to be taken care of. I don't have anything to worry about. And I guess no one other than me thought that was funny, but I thought it was quite humorous and well timed. Um, and this happens when I'm in these scenarios, like when someone is injured or when I'm facing a frightening situation. I will find something humorous to latch onto. And really it's not for anyone in the room other than myself. And what I proposed was that we're often told that when we go to humor, this space of humor, that it's a defense mechanism. It's like numbing ourselves from the reality of what's occurring. But I choose to look at it not as a defense mechanism, but as this avenue for integration. So it's a way for me, in the moment that this difficult scenario is being presented, it's a way for me to integrate that catalyst, that difficult situation, and to the word I used when I was writing down some notes on this is metabolize, to metabolize it. So we can dig into that further, but I'm going to let you
I
run
want
with
to.
anything that popped up. Yeah,
I've got
go
so
for
many
it.
things to set it up. Yeah. So super interesting what you're describing. My mom actually has this similar tendency. So when something bad happens to somebody, we always joke, like, like somebody hits their head or like hurts themselves. And it's like, we'll always be like, my mom will just start cracking up like uncontrollably. And we're always like, oh God, I hope nothing really bad happens to us. Like, because she's just going to think. So we joke about it, but we know it's her. We know that it's something that she's uncomfortable as her response. because she's the most compassionate person that I've ever met. Like, she is seriously one of the kindest people I know. And so it's so uncharacteristic. You know, it's not like she doesn't mean it, and it's not something that's there's any kind of ill intent. It's literally in that moment. What I think is happening is now I've also heard like it's a defense mechanism, but what I think is it's not intentional. It's not something that she's doing intending to do it. She's not choosing that. It's an automatic response that happens. And to me, there is a spike of stress. There is a spike of something's not okay, and somebody I love dearly could be injured. And it's like her body has to have it's almost like a pressure cooker where it's like because it spikes, she's gotta have just a little bit of, like, something that takes off the edge, so it's like the pressure cooker with the little top going tap, 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 and releasing some energy, so it allows for her to release some of that nervous energy in a way that, kind of de-escalates the situation a little bit because even the person, when they're not injured so severely it requires hospitalization, um, they kind of start laughing, which laughter then has an effect of decreasing pain and increasing resilience. So it actually does help to infuse in that situation a bit of recovery on the person that's there. And it also, to your point, for it being a pathway to integration, it would help you metabolize that because what it's doing is there's this phenomenon, and it's actually been researched where they say that when you have some really difficult news or information to deliver to people, that it's best received, it's more palatable right after laughter. And so it's actually something that people that have to deliver difficult news sometimes will do intentionally, knowing that that's a thing. What happens is as a species, when we release that laughter, then it's almost like the stress hormones in our brain calm down enough to where we have the bandwidth to hear difficult things. But if we were already up here and spiked up here, then we couldn't take it in and it would actually shut our brains off. So it allows for us to be in the space of receiving something and hearing it and processing it.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something that I hadn't remembered right until you mentioned that, which is I've had this tendency a lot of my life to laugh and cry at inopportune times.
Mm,
So my body naturally does this. Like I've noticed when one of my kiddos gets hurt and I know they're actually really hurt, I laugh. And like I don't try to. It
yeah.
just I can't not laugh. And I'm not laughing at them. It's exactly what you described. It feels like there's so much stress and tension built up that like it has to escape. Like my body just naturally like it's not even I don't have control over it. And the same thing happens when I'm really under situations where I'm stressed and nervous about something, even if it's not a normal like situation where I would cry. Like I remember for example, like in high school when I had to have a conversation with a teacher about some really high level project I needed to turn in or something. And I went to them to have a normal conversation about this, and I just start crying and I couldn't even get my words out.
Yeah.
And it was totally out of my control again. So I think they kind of fall under the same like chemistry of what's
Umbrella.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested for people that are listening to this in the comments if you wouldn't mind if you identify with this or if you know somebody who has this as something that you've witnessed before. I would be interested to know how pervasive this is because my mom's the only other person other than you now that I've known that actually has this. But it
Hmm.
makes sense that there's certain emotions that spike. I could see you as well as her as being somebody who cares so much about your kids that, some people go into like they get really, really centered and they get very responsive, right? Which is
Mm.
totally fine. But another response is also, I think, this overwhelming fear or concern that rises because it's somebody that you love so dearly. I could see where that's like a thing. This is weird that this came up, so I'm just gonna say it, because we love weird. Um, but I had this thought. It's almost like this is weird. It's almost like it makes me think of I want to go back in time. It's almost like a
Mhm.
response that because I've done this before where I've laughed about something. Now it's not an automatic response, but it's happened on occasion. And sometimes it's just like it's almost like I've interpreted it like my body wants to go back 10 minutes before when I was laughing and now something really bad's happened and it's almost like, hey, can we just go backwards? Like and it's not something that is conscious, but it's almost like a part of me wonders if it's not some attempt to say, no, 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 no. Like a rejection of now.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just like it occurred to me that it feels like that it's an attempt to regain control in some way by having a
Hmm.
different outcome. It's almost like hey, is there a way to make this funny? Like can we not do this and do something else? It's like it's weird. It's like this really deep desire for this not to be the reality.
Hmm. Interesting. So this isn't the direction that I was thinking I wanted to go, but this connects with something that I had written down, which um so you're making me think about how okay, so we have this like very human, very embedded perspective of these circumstances. Like for me, this is life or death. Someone's telling you that you're dying. Oh my gosh, you're dying. And me going, but it doesn't feel that grave. Like it doesn't feel that serious. Or you experiencing this scenario where you just wanted to go back in time, back to when it was okay, like back to before your brain had this new information.
Yeah.
But what if what we're actually experiencing is a like a breaking through of an understanding that it really isn't that serious? Like, what if what we're experiencing is this soul level perspective of,
Mm.
oh, honey, like, it's cute that you think that this is the end of the world, life or death. Like, and in the grand scheme of things, you may or may not even remember this in the future. So it's like this soul level understanding breaking through and kind of shaking us a little bit and saying, it's not what you think it is. Like, this isn't as big as you perceive it to be right now. Right now, your frame of reference for it is like this, and it takes up this much space. But eventually, your frame of reference for it's going to be like this, and it's going to take up that much space. And so it's almost like it's not escapist to feel that way. It's just giving us a broader perspective that it really isn't as heavy as it feels in this
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm. Yeah, I do think it's interesting because my first thought was, okay, so what we know about the universe, if we take this further, is that they like angels and people beyond can't interact with us unless we ask for it.
Mhm.
So my first thought was is well maybe they're trying to help me feel less anxiety because it's not necessary to feel this pain and not necessarily but they can't interject something without my asking. So if this is an automatic response, I would think it's not something that's initiated by the universe. But what you're saying is there's some part of us that knows this higher knowledge and is remembering this on its own
Yeah.
and activates that because it is important for us not to have unintended emotions that aren't necessary. Um, and so it's like it's right sizing it in the whole
Mm.
scheme of things. It's right sizing it, right?
Because the universe is all about balance.
Mhm,
Everything has to exist in balance. And yeah, what I'm suggesting is that it's like our higher self that has these larger perspectives.
mhm,
And that, I mean, we're going to get real heady here, but theoretically, if time is just something that we're constrained by right now, and our higher self or our spiritual body, our non-physical self is outside of time, then it can technically be our higher or future self that's saying it's not that important.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Don't do it. Right. Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
get upset about this. It's going to be, or even to take it a step further, it could be our higher self already knowing from a future perspective that it's not going to be a big deal. Because every
Right.
single time that something has happened like that, when I think about from my mom doing it, ultimately it was okay. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something that somebody needed to go to the hospital. Ultimately, it was okay. And in actuality, if I'm honest, like when we found out about my grandma, if that was something that she always did when she got bad news, she would have done it then.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like there's a pre-knowledge that's not known or accessed that we
Mm-hmm.
can all count on, that when she actually laughs in a situation, you're going to be okay, because it's
Yeah.
never inappropriate. It's actually, she already knows that you're going to be okay. Some part of her already knows it's going to be okay. Right.
So, oh my gosh, you just pinged. This is didn't expect to go this way, but you just pinged something. So, when my dad passed, I was very much not okay. Like it was not okay on there. And for most of the couple months of having to deal with all of that, it was not okay. But on the day that we went to the cemetery to bury him, so he was cremated, so he was put in one of those like wall, the little plaque on it. We
Where they
have
put
like the
urns.
right, we have the urn that we're going to put there. And I'm standing there and I start laughing. And I hear him say, like in my ear, first time in my life I ever fit in a box that small. And I'm cracking up because it was totally something that he would say. It was totally a joke that he would make. And he like
Mm,
was there and made light of this. And I think that's because he knew, like, oh, I'm here with you. Like you're stuck with me. Like
mhm,
I didn't go anywhere. You're not losing me. So we can make a joke here because I want you to know I'm here with you and
I'm
I'm going to
here.
be here with you. Yeah.
Right.
So
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 you're
he made
both
this
kind of standing
joke.
out here looking at the box going, wait, who are
Right.
they talking about here? What's happening here? Because
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
real.
Right. So this and he came to me many, many times after that until I finally understood that, like, the message that he was trying to get across. He would come in my dreams and have conversations with me. Like he'd show up in my dream. I'd be having this dream, then all of a sudden dad's there. And he'd be like, hey, I'm not actually dead. It was all like this big cosmic joke. Like I'm right here. And I'd get mad at him and I'd be like, what are you doing showing up in my dreams and saying you're not dead? Like you're not here. You're not, like, I can't hug you. Like you weren't there at my wedding. Like you weren't here. You're not here. Um, and then I finally realized, oh, oh my gosh. Like I was so thick-headed that I didn't get what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
And now he's here all the time.
Right.
He's very much present. Um, but he really wanted me to understand, like, when I say that it's funny and you're not getting it, I'm not trying to make you feel upset or like miss me more. I'm actually trying to get a point across to you that it's funny because I didn't go anywhere and I'm still here.
It
So,
also though
yeah.
lines up with what I was saying about my mom though, in like, so there's something about this, or what I was saying about like when we're trying to share information that is serious, but yet it's best placed right after something funny. It's almost like that.
Mhm.
Like this is something, what he's saying to you is something um very important when it comes
Yeah.
to like where we're going and what's going to happen. Like, that's one of the biggest things, the biggest questions that people have is like, what's happening beyond us and where do we go?
Mhm.
And so the fact that he would make a joke about it, and then lay that very well, like, hey, by the way, I'm telling you something massive, like, I'm okay, like, I'm here, um right after that is kind of using that format of telling you something big right after you're laughing about something,
Yeah.
and getting you from the very beginning. Like, here you are at the graveside,
Yeah.
where he's going to be resting, his ashes are, and he's letting you know from the very beginning, like, but then there's also, it's interesting because we know from dreams that dreams are just things that our subconscious is trying to tell us. They're buried inside of us, and we're not
Hmm.
quite like, when we hear it out loud, it's almost like the universe, like he was trying to test and see, are you ready for this? And then when you're not, it comes at you less intently, like intensely, because they're not into causing us distress. And so it
Yeah.
comes in our dreams, and then eventually you're like, okay, okay, I get it. Like, I feel you, I sense you, I know you're here. I wish your body was here, but it's plan B. To feel you is not awful, right? And so it
Yeah.
doesn't cause me so much distress now. I can actually talk to you this way. So he doesn't have to come to you in the dreams as much. He can just come to you, or through
Hmm.
other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So the other place I wanted to go with this, when I kind of laid out the theory that I built around this, was that humor is not a defense mechanism, but a path to integration. I, of course, in true Bridget fashion, broke down the etymology of the word integration,
mhm.
and this is what I got. And it's delicious. So
Bring it.
so integer, the word integer in it comes from in tangere, so it's the Latin. In is the negation, so your prefix in is a negation. Tangere in the Latin means to touch.
Okay.
So really what it means is not to touch, like untouched, unspoiled. So pristine, whole, intact. So that's the root of this. But integration comes from integrare, the verb, which means to make whole. And
Mm,
that connects perfectly with like my favorite word, which is to remember, which is also to make whole. So what I think humor invites us to do is, like I said before, it's an opportunity to keep oneself intact and to keep oneself whole through a really difficult situation.
mm,
So we have two paths for metabolizing a catalyst. So I'll use the word catalyst to describe any scenario, whether it's high joy or deep sorrow and everything in between. Anything that comes at us that we can interact with in life, like a player in a game, that's a catalyst. So a catalyst could be that I burned my tongue on my coffee, or a catalyst could be that I was told I was having heart failure, or a catalyst could be that I adopted a stray cat. Like, it could be any situation we interact with. So our opportunities for metabolizing these catalysts are either a slow metabolism, which kind of falls on the side of it being really heavy. So that could be sadness or anger or fear or frustration. That's a slow metabolism of a catalyst. But a fast metabolism of a catalyst would be dealing with it through the humor lens. So it stays light, it's buoyant.
mm,
We are able to work through it more quickly. And we know for a fact that when we play, right, it takes us, what did you say, 20? Was it 20 or
20 times.
20 times? Yeah, 20 times to learn something new in a framework of play. But it takes us 2,200,
200. Yeah, it takes it's 10 times more.
200,
Yeah.
10 times more, 200 times to learn something through a typical framework, or a framework where we're kind of under stress or we're not in flow.
Serious.
So that's a slow metabolism of a catalyst versus a fast metabolism of a catalyst. And I think that really beautifully ties together this whole idea of humor is a path to integration because it works us through this scenario more quickly. It keeps us in a light, buoyant flow state, and it keeps us intact versus allowing us to disintegrate or fall apart under the stress of this scenario. Will we still work through it? As long as we still live. If we make it out the other side, then we use that catalyst.
Yeah.
But the faster way to use that catalyst is to have to burn it off quickly through a light or humorous metabolism.
So this is a great opportunity, I think, to like, my thought is like, why, right? And some of it I think has to do with, we keep our body, if we are integrating, and you talked about that, that means to make whole. In order to make something whole, we as an organism need to be whole in order to allow that to flow through us. So when we experience severe stress, or we have, like, think about the stress dump of all these stress hormones that are in our body that course throughout us and cause us to have our heart palpitations, and our body starts to respond in ways that does not allow us to integrate that information. There is a lot of blockages that begin to happen, and so we have to back do it from there. In order, it's almost like we're mobilizing all of these resources for something versus remaining at our highest physical and mental state, right? So when the body is actually in laughter, these are the types of things, and this is by no means a comprehensive list, but just to give you an idea of how the body is in a healthy place to process. You, when you're laughing, when you're having, engaging in humor, also when you're playing, you have a higher, stronger immune system, so we can fight off disease. We have boost in mood, which means we have less depression and less anxiety, so we have an improved mood. We have less stress, meaning that we're not dumping those stress hormones, and in actuality, we're giving something that counteracts that and repairs. We have endorphins released, these positive hormones in our brain, which improves our well-being. This is again part of the immune system. It protects our heart, which, think about, like, when we're struggling, we know that we can actually die from heartache because of the severity of it. So what happens in our heart is there's an increased blood flow. So laughter gives us increased blood flow in our heart. We know that it improves, from just a relational perspective, it improves relationships. It increases group bonding and teamwork. It decreases conflict among people, and it attracts other people to us. Okay. So
Hmm.
it makes us something that somebody is, interested in being, pulling towards. That's just a few of the things that laughter and humor and play do. So in essence, it feels like, from a health perspective, it feels like medicine. It
Hmm.
feels like medicine. And also when we're trying to comprehend something challenging that is happening, um, it allows for us, like you said, to remain whole, not just to make it whole, but to remain whole, which gives us an opportunity to consolidate something into the entirety of who we are, which allows for us to make it whole because we integrate it versus it getting stalled or blocked at different junctures, given our emotional and physical reaction to what's happening.
Hmm.
So that also doesn't mean that we should laugh at inappropriate times and make ourselves do it. What's funny is that I do think that our body naturally knows when we need it.
Hmm.
Because what I find is that, I think that when people do it organically, um, that's right for them at that point. Like, their body knows what they need before they have language for it. Um, and I would say that it might be appropriate to do it if you're feeling like doing it, but you stifle it. And then you got to backtrack and explain it to people who don't understand, but it might be more healthy for you to actually do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got my brain churning, trying to recall like these moments throughout like my childhood and my early adulthood where I just remember having these full like group laugh sessions where like you're in a room and it just gets contagious and everyone is just laughing.
Oh,
And
I
it's
can
like
tell
you
you one.
lose. Yeah, let's go.
Okay, because I was thinking I'd love to talk about like the different times that this comes up. So this is kind
Yeah.
of a little one, but not necessarily. I was recently at an artist retreat. It was in January of this year, and I'm around all of these visual artists, these painters, and I'm always they say that I'm their muse. And so I'm just a brainstormer who comes and makes things light and fun, but I'm not, a visual artist. And so it's always funny when we have these little like we have like these creative play sessions, which are so important for an artist to engage in because it gets them out of their typical artistic flow, and it allows for them to think about and experience art differently. So it's really impactful to do this. So, but when I do it, they're all into it. They've got like pieces that I'm always like, I look over at them and I know we're not supposed to compare, but I look over at them and then I'm like, oh gosh, I'm like, I'll say to them, I'll be like, I would buy that piece right now. It's so good. Like that's really good. And then you look at mine and it's like a stick figure that's not proportionate and it's a shit show. It's not good, okay? And so all like what happened was this last time I was so locked up. I was so like everything I did was crap. And I kept saying to people, like, I look at your stuff and your stuff is so good. And then finally what I did, everybody's quiet and into the moment. Everybody's like geeking out and they're all doing their thing. And all of a sudden I look around and I was like, and then I just started losing it. I was crying. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. And then they looked at me like, "Oh, is she okay?" And then they start laughing, and we're all laughing. Well, I mean, most of us are. And then finally I say, "Okay, okay, I'm just gonna say it. My stuff's really bad, and I'm not competing against you guys. I just want you to know I'm not competing against you guys like they thought I was competing with them." But it was me needing to say it out loud. Hey, I recognize I don't even compare with you guys. You guys are amazing. I'm like this, like no skills whatsoever. So I'm just going to play. I'm really just going to play. Whereas you guys say you're playing, I'm really going to play. And then as soon as I said that and I released the tension, I'm not kidding you when I say I produced something that I really liked. Like it literally let me open up and I was able to stop comparing myself to them, which I didn't even really wasn't conscious of and I didn't know that I was doing. And it allowed for me to be back in myself and just enjoy what I was doing. And then I actually created something that I was like, mic drop, I'm done. That was awesome. Like I don't know where that came from, but I was stoked. And I was
Mm.
like, I actually produced something that I felt like was good, and that's all I needed. I needed one piece that I was like, okay, it's pretty good.
I'm finding it really interesting that what it took was like a throat activation, that
Mhm.
like you had to actually just release, like verbally release
Yes.
that, and that laughter, like that is actually a throat activation. But then saying something and just releasing it, like to me it gives me a visual of almost like drawing out the toxins. Like there's this idea that is choking me and like poisoning this vision that I have of myself. And the idea is that it's an identity. Everything comes down to our identities. I am statements. So I am not an artist. I am whatever. And as soon as you released that, like that laughter almost like gave it like momentum, like gave the release momentum and
Mm.
propelled it. And as soon as you got that away from yourself and like put it outside yourself, then it was safe to embody this idea of I am an artist.
Mm.
And I
Well,
was
you
going
know
to point that out
what's
because you've
interesting
had this
is,
whole evolution happen
well,
since
but
then.
here's
But
what's
yeah.
interesting. I did not have that awareness that I was an artist right after that. I just had
Yeah,
awareness that I wasn't an artist, and that was okay. And so because I
right.
wasn't, I I'm actually just going to produce whatever comes out of me, and I'm not going to compare it. I'm just going to do the exercise. Now, what did
Yeah.
happen though is that very same table, fast forward 8 months later. 8 months later, I'm sitting in a similar seat and around the same table. So fast forward to September, and all of a sudden I'm in an exercise and somebody's doing something that I've never done before in a medium I've never done before, and they're introducing a topic that I've never, like the way they're saying it, I was like just gripped. And then the next thing you know, art is pouring out of me. It's like I was an open portal, and I felt like understood when artists say that they get inspiration and that it just like comes through them. And I wasn't blocking it or self-conscious. I
Mm,
was like, I'm just going to create. And I just stood up and I started grabbing stuff and getting all excited. And the next thing you know, I produced 5 things when other people were like 1 or 2 things in. I produced 5 things that I really enjoyed. And I got up and I was like, I'm an artist. So it was in that same space where I announced that I wasn't, and claimed that this wasn't my identity, that then
mm,
8 months later in that same space, I end up saying, I'm an artist. But it's like it freed up something in me 8 months before, just
mm-hmm,
saying it. Like you said, activating my voice and maybe even opening my throat chakra, you know,
mm-hmm.
and allowing my truth to come out. But it wasn't a static truth, it was dynamic, and I was able to see it shift,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Something about like allowing yourself to be broken open a little bit. And it's not saying that that's uh like disintegrating you or like taking you apart or making you any less whole. The visual is like we have this hard outer shell, and when we won't let anything in and we won't let anything out, then no new growth can happen. But I know a lot of, in fact, all, I think mostly seeds that have this hard outer shell that at some point, if they're going to grow, if something's going to germinate, it has to be broken. And so if we don't allow anything in or out, then no growth can happen. But as soon
Mm,
as we like allow a little tiny crack of just saying, wow, this is crap, this sucks, and I'm okay with it, but you just
mhm,
let it out, it cracked just a little
mhm.
bit. And then 8 months later, there
It's
was
almost like a
enough.
baby.
There was, yeah,
It's like
you
a
birthed
baby.
something.
I birthed something.
A little art baby.
Little art baby. Yeah. It's funny too because um I picture like some seeds may know what they are meant to be, but some seeds don't.
Mm.
So it's like I think about us and like how many kids do we know that are like, I'm gonna be this when I grow up. And then sometimes they really are, and everybody's like, wow, they always knew they were gonna be this. And then how many kids do you have that are like they're clueless and they're like, nah, I'm not gonna do this, or I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then all of a sudden they become that thing. And they were like, whoa, I can see little times along the way that I was this all along, but I just didn't see it. And it's like
Uh-huh.
I'm having this visual of like a seed who's like, I'm not a flower. And this seed's like, I'm a flower. And they're the same seed, but they don't even know that one of them knows what they are and that they're in a patch of flowers. And the other, all they can see is they're covered with dirt. you know, they can't see. It's like I see that like metaphor with like humans and our growth, that we're just like babies or just seedlings, and sometimes you have access to what you're going to be and sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Hi, I'm an archaeologist, interior decorator. What else did I think it was going to be? Dentist. I thought some strange things. Oh, Air Force pilot.
Oh my God. I thought I was going to be an Air Force pilot. Are you serious? Wait, wait. Okay, we've never talked about this. I literally thought I was going to be an archaeologist, lawyer, Air Force pilot. I mean, we've already got some overlap. That's crazy.
Do you want to do you want to hear what my grand plan was? My devious master plan?
Yes.
So we're in high school. We're in high school English class, and they go, "What are you going to be when you grow up anyway?" And I was like, "I'm going to marry someone who's ridiculously rich, and then I can do whatever I want with my life."
That's hilarious.
They're like, "We asked what you wanted to be." I was like, "I told you. I just want to play. Like, I want to have fun."
I want to play.
Master plan.
Master plan.
Yeah, so needless to say, I didn't have a freaking clue. I still don't know what my seed is. I'm growing. I'm green. I got some leaves happening, but that could be a whole bunch of anything at this point.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
knows?
it's going to be a surprise.
Maybe I'll be a forest. Maybe I'm not just one.
You're in a whole forest and you're like,
The
I
whole
had
forest.
no idea. All right. So I'm trying to check and see if I got anything else to share about laughter and play. And I think kind of for me, I think it's important to kind of say, like, with this topic, for me personally, why this has been so important is, and I hope that people that are listening can get their own yes to how to apply some of this, but it really is healthy to add more play and fun and humor into our life. So many times I think what happens is that that gets taught out of us from childhood. We get taught and told that that when you grow up, we just don't have that kind of fun anymore. Like it's, you know, we get to have good times, we get to go on vacation, we get to do stuff like that, but we forget, and that's one of the beauty, I think the beautiful things about kids is that, you know, we can't help but laugh when we're around kids. So kind of like kids give us permission to laugh. But if you're not with kids and you laugh, like try to be that person who goes to watch Barbie at the movie theater as an adult. Like people need to take kids. Like when you go to the like I always go to a movie by myself as an adult and people are like, "Where's the kids?" I don't have any. Yeah, I'm just coming to the show. Like I'm not buying that. Like to me, I've always innately known that it feels right to laugh. It feels right to have fun. When I was at my last organization, I would tell people in the break room, that was our rule. There's no work in the break room. This is a break room. So we just talked, and a lot of times there was a lot of laughter because that's what we needed in our day. It was such serious work and it was trauma and difficult things that it's like, no, 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 we need laughter. We need to break up some of this tension, you know, kind of build that resiliency.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing I think is important to talk about too is we have a choice with how to look at things. There's been situations before that I can think about where you have five people in a group and four people are cracking up and laughing, and somebody else is getting frustrated. And oftentimes, when I've seen people get frustrated, or me myself, when I've been frustrated, when other people are laughing, it's rubbing up against something with me, and it's not like it's actually really funny what's happening, but it's rubbing up against me. And so I've had to tell myself several times, even if it's at my expense, as long as it's not something that's mean hearted and it's something just genuinely lighthearted, funny, that it's a choice that I have when there's laughter to engage in it or to take something seriously when it is not necessary. And if anything, it's just a metric or an opportunity to ask, what's this about? Why am I getting so frustrated about something that clearly is not meant to be frustrating?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, that was unexpectedly woven together really nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that
Anything else?
conversation. I
Yeah.
just want to encourage people to find your people. Find your people that,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be all the time, but make sure that you're going to comedy clubs, that you are spending time with friends that make you laugh. That the next time you want to laugh like to tears, laugh to tears. Don't hold it back. There's some part of you, just like when we cut off our crying and we really need to let it out, when we cut our laughter short because we think it's past what it is. Hey, laugh in church. That's good times right there. I can't tell you how many times that I've been in church and I get the giggles. I'll look over at like my cousin or I'll look over at somebody and I get the giggles. Man, there's nothing better than the non-shame that can happen from laughing out loud in church. Do it.
Maybe I'll have the intro to this episode be all of the outtakes where we couldn't even speak because we were just laughing so hard.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
I mean, we do it
absolutely.
all the time, all the time. But
Absolutely.
find someone who makes you laugh like that. I think it's a great remedy for many, many things.
Yes.
So, a special thanks to Asheville artist Melissa Moss for our cover art. You can learn more about Melissa at melissamossart.com. And thank you to Cloud Cult for our intro and outro music from their song There's So Much Energy in Us. Find out more about Cloud Cult at cloudcult.com. And of course, thank you to all of our listeners. And until next time, friends, peace, love, light, and laughter.